Hey, how are you doing, girl? So today is the 14th of March, 2019, and it's Pi Day. That's right, 3.14159 day. My favorite irrational number, right? Happy Pi Day, Emily. So I don't plan on doing anything special for Pi Day. In the past, I've done special things. For example, I think I made like a cake or something and offered it to my coworkers. There was one year that I memorized pi to 100 digits, and I recited pi to my coworkers who were interested in knowing about it. Um, were interested in watching me recite pi. Uh, yeah, I like Pi Day. I like the idea of Pi Day because it's so universal, you know. Uh, and there really ought to be more holidays related to math. I think math holidays. I mean, it sounds awesome. If you think about it, I guess there are a lot of holidays that are at least related to math or physics when it comes to, say, the astronomy. In fact, if you think about it, the summer solstice and winter solstice are all about physics and astronomy, right? Those are holidays that have to do with, say, the physical manifestations of reality. Anyway, I like Pi Day. This is the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. It's such an esoteric number. Of course, extremely necessary. It's amazing how, as a physicist, I can appreciate just how much pi is in all of the equations. It's in all of the equations. Well, any equation that has to do with space, right? Volumes in particular, circles like slices of space. There's a pi in it. There's a pi in it, and I think that's kind of interesting. Here's the thing: people do physics equations because they want to know about what's happening in space time. And since space is three dimensions, and it's easy to calculate things when you take slices of those things. It's easier than calculating all of the everything. If you can break down the problem into slices, then you basically have to deal with having pi in pretty much every one of your equations. And my guess is that in your math classes, Emily, you're beginning to find that out too, that pi is everywhere. And so, anyway, I think it's a notable day. So, happy Pi Day, Emily. So, let's see what else is going on. Today's Thursday. Anything interesting going on in my life right now? Well, not so much. um, I'm not sure what I'm going to do this weekend yet. I've got a 3-day weekend, and man, I'm looking forward to it. In fact, since today's Thursday, today's actually my Friday when you're thinking about the weekend. So only a few more hours of work, and I'll be done with this week's working. So, what am I going to do this weekend? I have no idea. I have no idea. Um, I'll have to think of something. I might just spend it indoors. Well, there is one thing that's happening. I have set up a book club of sorts. I've got some friends, and we're going to get together and we're going to talk about books that we read that are self help related. They're in the self help genre, self growth, self development, psychology genre. These are books that we all like to read. And so tomorrow we're getting together and we're going to go over this book that we're reading. In fact, I already finished reading it. It's John Gottman's book, 8 Dates. And I actually finished that book last week. My other friends, they are coming to the book club meeting and they expect for me to have only half the book read. That was the goal, to read half the book by today. But I completely devoured the book, not because it was a particularly good book. While I enjoyed the book and it had a lot of nice reminders in it, I wasn't particularly drawn to the book. I mean, I was drawn to the subject matter, but not to the way that it was written or the perspective that it was written. It seemed to be a little bit odd in a few ways, and we'll talk about that during the book club tomorrow. In preparation for that book club meeting, I baked a cake. I baked a carrot cake, and I put some cream cheese frosting on top. And I also piped with frosting, chocolate frosting, the names of the authors of the book that we're going to be reading for our book club. Isn't that cute? I think it's cute. So not only will we be reviewing the book, but we'll be eating a cake with the authors' names piped in frosting on top. And we'll be eating a carrot cake, which, by the way, is one of my favorite cakes. I love carrot cake, or at least, the fact is I haven't had carrot cake in a long time. That reminds me, I like cakes. I like white cake. Oh yeah. I like chocolate cake. Love chocolate cake. Other kinds of cakes that I love carrot cake. The strips of carrot in it, the cinnamon in the carrot cake, or it's usually some kind of pumpkin spice mix that's in the carrot cake. Love that. Let's see what other kind of cakes I love. Oh, one of my favorite kinds of cakes is German chocolate cake. Oh my goodness. There's just something about German chocolate cake frosting, which has got, I don't know, what is it, pecans and coconut in it. Oh my goodness. Now we're talking. That is some amazing stuff. That German chocolate cake frosting is out of this world. So I love German chocolate cake. Let's see. I just like cake with white icing. Oh yeah, white icing. That's good stuff. Of course, I like cinnamon rolls. I don't know if cinnamon rolls really counts as a cake. It's more like a muffin. Certainly a pastry. So what other kind of cakes do I like? Well, I guess I've enjoyed, let's say, red velvet cake, but I don't have a lot to say about red velvet cake. I've had a couple of them, and they just haven't necessarily blown me away. What I really like are cakes that have pudding in them, like a mousse in them, some kind of moist pudding-like cake where there is pudding, say, in the center. I love that stuff. That is so good. But I must say that I do love cake. I also love like certain kinds of dessert breads. For example, I like pumpkin bread. Oh yeah. And I love banana bread. Oh yeah. And there's some zucchini bread that I've enjoyed. Some of it. I've enjoyed some zucchini bread. No, most of the time, I love the zucchini bread. So I actually went to the store and I did buy some pumpkin bread box mix. So I'm really looking forward to making that. Maybe this weekend. Maybe this weekend I'll do something. Actually, you know what? I've got a hankering for some German chocolate cake. So I need to find a quality frosting. I've also got a hankering for lemon cake with lemon frosting. Oh yeah. Now, why haven't I made a lemon cake? I don't think I've made a lemon cake in my entire life. My entire life. So I think what I'm gonna do is start making that lemon cake. I also have a mix in my cupboard where I can make lemon bars. Yeah, now that is something special. Love those lemon bars. I also have a box mix in my cupboard where I can make Reese's peanut butter bars, which they're like a peanut butter bar with a chocolate topping. Um, oh yeah. So I don't know what's gone out over me. I'm really excited about making cakes, making breads, and offering them to friends. Really, I pretty much offer 90 to 95% of the stuff that I bake to my friends and to my coworkers because I can't possibly eat all the cakes that I want to make. Like, eat them all. I certainly can't eat them all and maintain the weight that I want to maintain, and also maintain the healthful living that I want to maintain. So, anyway, pretty amazing stuff. So, let me think. What else is going on? Well, you know what? Something has come to mind. I have been called to call in for jury duty. And honestly, I forgot to call in last night. Oh, no. So maybe you don't mind if I call in while I'm on. I know. I know. I can't believe I need to find out whether I've got jury duty. So, do you know anything about jury duty, Em? Maybe we could talk about it.
Thank you for calling the Santa Barbara Superior Court Jury Services Division. You are currently using our touch-tone system. You may switch between the touch-tone system and the speech recognition system by pressing the star key at any time. To continue in English, press 1. To use your badge number to get information on your jury service, please.
Oh, I think I messed it up.
For security purposes, please enter your PIN number located on the front of your summons under your jury. The information given was not found in our records. To try again, press 1. Please enter your juror badge number, which is located on the bottom left portion of your summons. For security purposes, please enter your PIN number.
I like how she says for security purposes. Everything is for security purposes.
The information given was not found in our records. To try again, press 1.
Okay.
Please enter your juror badge number, which is located on the bottom left portion of your summons, and then press pound.
There we go.
For security purposes, please
For
enter
security
your
purposes.
PIN number located on the front of your summons under your juror badge number, and then press pound.
There we go.
We found badge number 31346334. If this is correct, press 1.
It is correct.
You've been placed on call for potential jury service this week. You must call the recorded message line after 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, March 14th, 2019.
All right.
And for the rest of this week, until you are either told to...
All right. So, not going to court today. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate you giving me a little leeway there, allowing me to call the Santa Barbara Superior Court. I guess Santa Maria Superior Court. The Superior Court. It is, after all, superior. And helping me figure out whether I need to report for jury duty or not. You know, I've done this a number of times, sort of reported for jury duty, 3 or 4 times, right? It happens about once every 7 years or something like that. Maybe it's actually been happening more often, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's at least every 5 years. Well, no, it could have been. I think it's probably about, it's about once every 5 to 7 years. So they're working the records there. So anyway, I don't know. What else? So we were talking about cakes. All right. So maybe I'll do some baking this weekend. And, I wonder if I'll travel this weekend. I might, depending on how I feel, I might travel to Los Angeles. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Palm Springs this weekend. Wow, that's cool. I don't know. Who knows what I'll do this weekend? I don't even know what I'm going to do this weekend. If you have any weekend plans, let's do them together because I'm struggling to find something to do. Okay, let's see. All right, so the title to this video is My First Job. So that's a good subject. I can talk about that. So my first real job was at United Paradigm Corporation back in 1997. And I was hired as a mechanical engineer. And I worked for United Paradigm for 6 years, which is great. And that was my first real job, my first real high-powered job that I got as a result of getting my bachelor's degree in physics. After I achieved that degree, I was able to get a nice job, and that's the first nice job I had. Now, prior to that, I had lots of other jobs. Lots of jobs. And here's the thing about all the jobs I took. I worked in a mattress company sorting financial files. I worked at a bank, SunWest Bank, as a clerk. And I was working in the back. I was just checking loan information on loan forms. It was checking data entry to make sure that the data entered into the database was accurately entered from the form that was submitted by the applicant. I also worked at a jewelry warehouse, a lapidary warehouse in Albuquerque. In that warehouse, there were lots of shelves and bins of different jewelry tools, jewelry making tools, and rocks and things like that. And I put little baggies into the main delivery box for delivery, and then mailed off those boxes, via UPS and FedEx to the purchaser. Where else? I also worked at Yosemite National Park for a summer when I was in college during summertime. I'd have to figure out something to do during the summertime, and often it would be working at a job. And uh, one of my jobs, well, one time I traveled to Yosemite National Park, and I worked at the concessionaire, or the business that runs the concession stands at Yosemite National Park. And I did a few things there. I worked as a busboy, bussing tables for lunch, for breakfast and dinner. I also worked as a ice cream server, and I served ice cream there out the window of the concession. And I also did something else. Oh yeah, I served food in the cafeteria as a server, sort of behind the glass, uh, serving food on people's trays as they move through the line in the cafeteria. So, those are three jobs I did. I did other jobs too. I worked at Successories at Walden Books, at a mall, Northgate Mall in Seattle, Washington. I also worked at the Achievement Gallery, which was a store in Windrock Mall in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Achievement Gallery, it wasn't just merely a store, although it was merely a store. It was a store that did framing. It offered motivational quotes, um, posters, motivational quote posters, and other things. And I did that for a little while. Um, what else did I do? I had a lot of jobs when I was growing up. The reason was because I did a lot of temporary work. I worked as a temp, and as when you work as a temp, you could have a job for a week, and then the job would end, and you'd move on to the next job. And so that's part of the reason I had lots of jobs. Now, I didn't work for a temp all the time. I worked for a temp some of the time. One of my jobs also was I worked as a telemarketer. I worked as a telemarketer. That was an interesting job. I worked at a phone bank where I would call up people on a list, and I would offer them deals on one thing or another. Um, let's see. I had all kinds of jobs. I had an all. Oh, I worked at a hospital one time in Seattle, Washington. I worked sort of in the back. When people initially get into a hospital, there's lots of paperwork to sign, and so I was responsible for putting together the packets of paperwork and then handing them off to whoever would just handing them off to the patients. And also, I was responsible for making sure that they got their wristbands on their wrist. And so I would distribute those wristbands. I had all kinds of jobs. All kinds of jobs. One of the first jobs I had, very first real jobs I had was at Lotta Burger, which was a fast food hamburger restaurant. And it's very popular in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I think that Blake's Lotta Burger only exists in New Mexico. And I worked a lot of jobs inside Blake's Lotta Burger. Like one of the jobs I did is I sort of did janitorial work inside their warehouse. So I, cleaned the toilets and swept the floor of some of the areas where they did sheet metal work and where they did woodwork. I also pulled weeds. I have distinct memories of pulling weeds. I cleaned out the grates of meat. There was like a strainer, and I cleaned out those grates of sort of old meat that had been washed down the drain. I did all the dirty jobs. That's kind of there is a TV series called Dirty Jobs, and I've had my share of dirty jobs. One at Blake's Lotaburger, they press their own hamburger patties using a hamburger patty pressing machine, and so I did that for a little while, helped them press their patties. You basically put ground beef in a hopper, and there's a machine that takes that ground beef and sort of pats them into hamburger patties and stacks them. And then not only that, but there are bins, right? The hamburger meat itself comes in bins. At the time, they were blue bins, and these bins, once they were emptied of hamburger, these plastic bins needed to be washed, right? They needed to be cleaned. And so I did that. I would wash hundreds of bins of these blue bins that sort of contain the ground beef. And I would, so here can you imagine this? Here I am. I'm in a meat locker. All right. And this is a meat locker where there's no meat in it, because all the meat has been used. And the door was open, and I had this hot water hose with a sprayer on it, and I would spray. So in this meat locker, it's simultaneously cold and wet and super hot, because I've got this steam sprayer, this hot water steam sprayer. And I would be spraying these bins, and there would be steam everywhere. I had to open up the meat locker to the air because there was just steam everywhere, billowing entirely inside that meat locker. Thankfully, there was an opening to the outdoors. And so I'd clean the bins. I'd wash them out, rinse them out with hot water. I think it was probably just the initial washing, but let's see. What else did I do? What other jobs did I do? There's always another job. I mean, I did all kinds of jobs. It's not even funny. Okay, here's another job. I worked at Honeywell. That's right. Honeywell, they were making equipment related to communication systems like radios, walkie-talkies, or pagers. Who knows what they were, but they had ceramic insulators. Now, what I did is I transferred ceramic insulators from one tray to another tray. So if you could imagine Honeywell, they're making all these components for electrical equipment. They've got machines, right? And they got probably, I don't know, 100 machines. I don't know, maybe 50 machines that to do this work of producing these ceramic insulators. Maybe not even 100. Maybe it's just 10. But they're huge machines, and they make the components that go inside these electronic gadgets. So, but they're not entirely compatible with one another, right? You can't. Sometimes you got to do things by hand, right? You've got one tray, and it gets spit out by this machine, and this machine needs to go into that machine, but it's incompatible. So you've got to sort of transfer by hand the ceramic insulators from one tray to another tray. An extremely tedious job. And there was like 20 of us just doing that, moving ceramic insulators from one tray to another tray. And let me tell you, the carpal tunnel syndrome was off the roof, because for like 8 hours a day, I was picking up a small piece of material and transferring it to another place continuously. I wonder, that was an extremely monotonous job, but somehow I was able to survive it. I wonder if that's the source of some of my patience. In fact, a lot of the jobs I had required that I be very, very patient in doing them, in doing that job. So, so I worked at Honeywell for a little while. In fact, I actually left Honeywell because I was experiencing symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome. Yeah. So, my wrists just became painful. All right, let's see. I've had other jobs. There's more jobs than that. I had a job in mind that I had done, but I forgot what it was. Well, anyway, believe me when I say that I've had a lot of jobs. And you know what? I count all those experiences as being very useful to me. I love the fact that I've had a lot of jobs. In fact, there's a part of me that, wants to have lots of different jobs again. Oh, here's another job I had. Here in Santa Maria on Skyway Drive, I worked for a light industrial shop that assembled dirt bikes. That's right. They assembled bicycles, actually bicycles of all types. Adult bikes, children's bikes. And the way we would do that is we would stand in a circle, and there would be like an assembly line of sorts where someone would install the tires, or someone would install one tire, and then another person would install another tire, and then someone would install the handlebars, and someone would install the steering column, and someone would install the pedals, and we'd just work in a circle until the bicycle got assembled. And then we'd take the assembled bicycle and stick it in a cardboard box and transfer the cardboard box onto the shelves. And then there would be like a forklift driver, and they would forklift the boxed bicycles out to the dock. And it would be this whole thing where we would be assembling bicycles. So that was a good experience. So, that's just the kind of work that I did. I did all kinds of things. That's a lot of different jobs. Now, it's kind of funny. Recently, I've basically had the same job for a long, long time. I mean, the job I have now, it's basically the same job I've been doing since 2005. And it's already 2019. So I've been doing this job that I do right now, that I do every day, every work day. I've been doing it for what's 19 minus 5? 14 years. 14 years I've been doing the same job. Man, that's a long time. And when I say the same job, I mean basically the same job for 14 years. That's a long time now that I think about it. Why am I doing the same job so long? I don't know. Well, I'm very good at doing the job. And I'm always finding out ways to do the job a little bit better, which is kind of surprising to me. Like, after you've done a job for 14 years, you think that you've pretty much extinguished everything. You've extinguished sort of all the learning that was possible in the job that you're doing. Well, that's not true for safety, my profession. There's so much to learn. Even after 14 years, I feel like I don't know enough. There is so much to know. I mean, it is really inconceivable. Even yesterday, I had a brainstorm about a certain set of safety requirements that I really need to know, that I'm just not as familiar with some codes as I wish I was. And so I think I'm going to make a commitment to myself to really get to know at least 3 new codes, right? Become intimately familiar with the codes, these safety codes. I know. And the thing is that there are like 1,000 safety codes out there. And so, I just do my best to continue learning. continuously every day. Continuous learning is a big deal for me. Um, it's very important for me to continuously learn new stuff. One thing I say about jobs is that, the time when uh, you know that it's time to leave a job is when you've learned as much as you can from that job. When you stop learning, it's definitely time to move on to a new job. But it's okay to stick around with the same job so long as you're learning new things continuously, so long as yeah, every once in a while at least run into something that you didn't know before. Once you start sort of knowing like 90% of what a job is all about, it's definitely time to move on to a different job because you need to keep learning. If you're not learning anymore, then and if you're getting stagnant, it's time to move on to another job. And you know what? In my mind, I don't care what the job could be, even mundane, easy jobs, even dirty jobs can be interesting and valuable and useful to you. Absolutely. All the dirty jobs that I did when I was growing up, uh, they were all very useful in helping me get perspective on different employment opportunities. Um, I learn about myself a lot. I learn about some of my strengths. Sometimes I develop strengths um, from my jobs. So, it is, having a job is kind of like self-development activity. And so anyway, it's not merely a way to bring in money. It can, in fact, ought to be a way to enhance your self-growth. Yeah. So I was thinking that maybe one thing I could do is answer a few questions using my iPad Pro. So question number 304 was, what was your first job and how much did you get paid? Okay. So my first real job was at Blake's Lotaburger. How much did I get paid? I don't know. I don't think I got paid that much money. I might have gotten paid maybe, I don't know, $9 an hour, which was actually above minimum wage, I think. Maybe it wasn't even $9. I think it might have been like $7 an hour or something like that. It was not a lot of money. I remember a few years later, I had an amazing job as a telemarketer, and it wasn't amazing in any particular way, other than I'd never gotten paid that much money before in my life. And I remember that distinctly. That was $12 an hour. $12 an hour. It's like, whoa, that's a lot of money. To me, that was a lot of money. I think minimum wage at the time was just like $5 an hour in New Mexico. So to be paid $12 an hour, like twice the minimum wage, I was like jumping off the roof. Flipping. I was flipping out about how much money that was. For me, that was a lot of money back then. I've had other jobs too. For example, I did work study jobs in college, and I have fond memories about working at the library when I was in college using work study money. I loved it. I worked as a reference librarian in the library. I also worked in the shelves, basically in the stacking shelves of books, or actually just organizing the books on the shelves. That was a lot of fun. I also worked at the circulation desk where I would check out people's books. Love that work. I loved working in the library. Just loved it. And in fact, there was a time in my life where I thought that I probably wanted to be a librarian. And you know what? That would have been a really excellent choice for me. I still love books, and love libraries. I love going to libraries. In fact, you know, when I visit a new city, quite often I'm compelled to visit their library. It's one of the first things I visit. And even when I travel, like I have plans to travel to Los Angeles and go to the Los Angeles library, the central library there. Pretty much every even every city in the local area, I've kind of been to their library. Buellton's got a new library location, which I haven't been to yet, and I want to make sure to visit it. So I'm really excited about going to visit the library in Buellton and checking that place out. Always interested in going to visit local libraries. The last library I went to was, I think it was the Arroyo Grande Library, or maybe it was Pismo Beach. I forget which one. But that's exciting to me. I like going to visit libraries. Why? I mean, they pretty much all have the same books in them. For me, it's about environment. It's about atmosphere. It's about personalities. I'm curious. Something I learn new things. Like San Luis Obispo has like all kinds of programs related to language learning. Who knew? That's just a key aspect of what makes the public library in San Luis Obispo interesting and unique. And I appreciate getting to know about those differences. All right. So I was talking about what was my first job and how much did I get paid? Well, that was how much I got paid. All right. So the next question number 305. As a kid, what did you want to grow up to be? Well, I distinctly remember that. I remember I was in Santa Rosa, and I was visiting relatives there with my parents. And I was playing outside. They owned our friends, our relatives owned a ranch, and I was playing on the ranch. And I remember thinking about what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I came to the conclusion that there were 3 things that I wanted to do. Number 1 was be a postman, delivering mail. Number 2 was be a karate expert. And number 3 was be a grocery store clerk that bagged groceries. These were the 3 aspirations that I had when I was a kid. These are the kinds of jobs that I wanted when I was a kid. I was about maybe 9 or 10 years old when I came up with these 3 jobs that I wanted to be. And the reason I chose these jobs was because I guess I knew people who were examples of these jobs. Actually, I didn't know anybody who was a karate expert, but I saw plenty of karate experts on television and in movies, and that always struck me as being a really fun thing to do. It's kind of funny how I thought that might have been a job. And I guess like if you work in the movie industry, then yeah, being a karate expert's a job. But I can't think of any other ways that being a karate expert is a job other than, say, teaching karate. I didn't even know any karate when I was like 10 years old. Another job that I wanted to be was a grocery store clerk, bagging groceries. And the only reason I thought I wanted to do that was because my Uncle John, that's what his job was. My Uncle John worked in a grocery store bagging groceries. And I figured, well, if he could bag groceries, then I could bag groceries too. And that was a job I wanted to have. I wanted to bag groceries. That was a kind of job that I was aware of, right? As a kid, as a 10-year-old, I knew what kind of job that was. I saw grocery baggers. And since my uncle had a bagged groceries, then, that was my kind of thing. And then the other one was a postman delivering mail. I thought hey, you get to walk around, um, you know, you do something valuable for society. Now, that was actually probably a legit job that I could have gotten, that I might have been good at, and that I probably would have enjoyed a lot. So that was like the only real job that might have qualified as being a real job, where I was kind of on track. It's kind of funny. I still get a kick out of thinking about myself um, wondering and wanting to have jobs like that when I was a kid. I think that speaks to me a little bit about, you know, my my beliefs and behavior as a kid. Okay, so let's see what else. What else about jobs? I really, by the way, that memory is a very pleasing memory for me to recall. I recall it all the time. Okay, so question number 306. What photos do you cherish from the past, and where do you keep them now? Well, I've been thinking about this lately. Pretty much all my photos, like of me when I was young, married to your mom, and when you were a kid, your mom has all those photos. She's got them in a black case that holds all the CD-ROMs. And, I've been thinking lately that I want to get that case and make some copies of those CDs so I can have those photographs, because I don't have them right now, and I've noticed that as something missing in my life. I don't have those old photos. I want to have those old photos, man. So I'm thinking that I'm going to ask your mom for those photos, those CD-ROMs, so I can copy them, and then I'll give the CD-ROMs back to her, so that she can have a set. But I definitely want to get those duplicated. Faux show. Anyway, so what photos do I cherish from the past? It turns out my family took a lot of photos when over the years, and our family still continues to take a lot of photos. I continue to take a lot of photos, although I probably should be taking more photos. But yeah, I've got a lot of photos that I like. Now, where do I keep them? I pretty much keep them in external hard drives or on the internets. They're out there in Google Photos or in other places. They're really not very organized, which is a problem. I also got photos on hard drives on old computers, and I know that's not a good way to organize them or store them. So I guess I'm really hurting, I need to figure out a way to store my photos in ways that make sense, because they truly are scattered to the four winds. Emily, if there is something that I want to impress upon you, is the way that you store away your photos that you take. Figure out some methodical way to get them, I don't know, recorded and stored permanently. That's something that I've sort of failed to do over the years, and it's plagued me. I love taking photos. I love looking at photos. I love reminiscing about old photos, but for me, their location, and digging them out of the corners that they've fallen into, it's a problem. I got photos everywhere, and I think I inadvertently delete photos all the time. I know. So let's see what else is going on. Well, let's move on to the next question. Question number 307. Was there ever a time when it turned out you were right, in spite of many others who thought otherwise? Was there ever a time when it turned out you were right, in spite many others who thought otherwise? Explain the situation. Golly. Well, I'm sure that happens a lot just at random because, but honestly, I can't think of anything. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 308. What one word sums up your high school experience? What one word sums up my high school experience? What one word? Oh my gosh. What one word sums up my high school experience? That's really amazing. What one word? How about honors? The word is honors. Why? Because I took honors English through all 4 years of high school. And it was just a sort of an advanced English class. And I'm not saying that to boast or anything. It's just that these were the kids that I hung out around a lot. And so thankfully, in high school, there was one set of kids that I hung out with, and we did a lot of things together, and they got me interested in things like academic decathlon, and there were programming competitions where we did computer programming competitions. And I don't know, they were perceived as a smarter group. In our class, we had the valedictorian and the salutatorian and even like 3 or 4 of the whatever positions are slightly lower in GPA than the salutatorians, than the salutatorian. We had basically all the really smart people in my class. And let me tell you, being around those people basically defined my high school experience. And so that's why I say honors. Now, that's not to say that I was the smartest kid in school, because I wasn't. I mean, I think I graduated high school with like 3.26 might have been my GPA. So almost like if you round it up, that would be 3.3, right? And so, what is that? Like a B minus average. And so, I mean, I wasn't the perfect student. I wasn't the smartest kid in the room. There were definitely more smart people. In fact, even today, I consider myself a B minus intellect. I don't consider myself a B plus intellect or even an A minus intellect. So that it's kind of funny how that has kind of stuck with me. I've always considered myself like a B minus intellect. But I have other attributes. I have other key attributes that help me survive and thrive in the academic world. And those attributes are my patience, number 1, I guess. And number 2, I also, I sort of have I've sort of got like a commitment or reliability. I don't know, determination. I basically have high levels of determination, and I have a really strong work ethic. So it's really the work ethic, the determination, and there's also something else I have. I have pretty good communication skills, and patience. With those 4 attributes, I'm able to take my B minus intellect and work very well in circles like A plus minds, A minus minds. And that's what allows me to work in that sphere where I'm working with very intelligent people. So, and sometimes I shine amongst those people. So I'm pleased about that. So, but yeah, I've pretty much now, let me tell you something about a B minus intellect. It's a pretty strong intellect. It's definitely better than a C average intellect, which I think that I know. I think everyone's totally smart. I think people don't give themselves credit for the intelligence that they have most of the time. I'm pretty much for me. Here's the thing about me. For me, it's about all people and all their different perspectives and all their different ideas. I really try not to pigeonhole people or constrain their people based on sort of their intellectual reputation or anything like that, because anyone can come up with a good idea. In fact, most people. I mean, if you're alive, certainly if you have a job, if you're daily responsible for some kind of activities and you perform that activity adequately, in my book, you're smart. Absolutely. And it's just there's a lot of different kinds of intelligences. We live in a world of multiple intelligences. And in fact, personally, if you ask me, I know very smart people. And while what tends to happen is that these smart people are deficient in certain other key aspects of personality quite often, like they don't have a lot of high levels of social skills or communication skills, or maybe they're not as extroverted as they could be. Those are really powerful determinants of success. Extroversion, even a positive attitude. Like I have friends who are super duper smart, but have a negative attitude, and nobody wants to be around them. Nobody wants to talk to them. They don't get along with other people. They don't talk to other people. I know people who are super smart, but they just can't hold a conversation. Okay. Brilliant people. And they're mostly right. They're pretty much right all the time. But because they can't hold a conversation, or because they're stuck in like judgmental attitudes, nobody wants to hang around them. They don't make a contribution to the group, right? They're not benefiting anyone. And people actively avoid them. Despite the fact that they're mostly right all the time. So here's me. For me, I'm able to walk into a situation, be humble, right? Get everybody on. I'm able to sort of ask for consensus of the group, and I respect what other people have to say, and I could also make a decision if I have to make a decision. So really, right there, even though I have what I'd call a B- intellect, I mean, when it comes to pure intellectual power, right? I'm talking about pure horsepower, pure intellectual horsepower. And that's all I'm talking about when I say intellect. There are a lot of people who have more intellectual horsepower than I do. But thankfully, I've got, like I mentioned, a pretty good work ethic, and I do struggle to learn new things, and I do put energy toward it. And I am somewhat agreeable of a person. I know I'm always trying to foster goodwill in my relationships, my working relationships, my education like school relationships. Because of that, because I have a focus on relationships, I'm able to walk into any room and perform well in any room, pretty much even in front of people. And so that's a really great asset. It helps me when it comes to being around people with higher intellects. Anyway, of course, I'm not a slouch myself. I have a physics degree. I have an MBA, professional certificate. I still go to night school every semester in college. I still go to college. Every semester I go to college, take college classes, even during the summer semester. So I am no slouch. I'm definitely not a slouch. I got straight A's in graduate school. I'm no slouch, man. So, but anyway, I think the only reason I judge myself as being a B plus intellect is because I respect the intellectual powers of some people I meet. Some people I meet just blow me away. They're just so incredibly bright, just so incredibly brilliant. They're like, wow, that's spectacular. They're like fireworks going off, and I got, man, I admire the work that those people do. Anyway, I got to get going, Em. So enjoyable having a conversation with you today. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you have a fantastic day today, this Pi Day 3.14. Live long and prosper. There are no traditions related to Pi Day. We need to start making traditions. Like we need to go out and get pizza or something today. That would be an awesome tradition. Let's go do that. Let's go have pizza on Pi Day. Anyway, I'll talk to you later, girl. And I hope you have a wonderful day today, and a wonderful week, and a wonderful weekend. And I love you.